Well, normally when you see 10 kilometres to go and you're in front, you'll feel good, but I'm afraid the riders have looked round and the big pack are right behind them, so there is now virtually no one in front.
No, it's all going to come back together right on schedule for the teams of the sprinters, and they've got to keep the pace nice and high now, because it's at the moment when you catch a breakaway group like this, Phil, we're now looking at around about 9 kilometres to go to the finish, that a few other brave riders will try and outwit the sprinters on the run into Hahndorf.
Again, although the peloton is larger than it was yesterday, they shed about 30 riders on the climb of Checker Hill. And now we've got Astana trying to work something for Allan Davis here, last year's overall champion. And right behind the Radio Shack team, looking to probably try and guide Gert Stegmans to the line as well.
Well, those are the riders in red right down through the middle, but they're actually starting to get swamped a fraction there. Over on the left-hand side, you can see another team trying to organise themselves. All of the sprinters now getting extremely nervous.
Well, while these riders start to decide just how they're going to get down to the finish in Hahndorf, let me tell you that Bierenberg Farm in the German settled town of Hahndorf is famous for inviting visitors to pick their own strawberries. From its very humble beginnings, Bierenberg Farm is now a household name in Australia, and its delicious jams, sauces, pickles and produce can now be found all over the world. All products here are made on the farm, which was established way back in 1849. So while they think of dinner, we'll think of the finish, because right down there now, Paul, this is when they reshuffle. They try to locate the sprinter down there in the big field and drag him to the front.
You might just have noticed the orange jerseys over to the left-hand side. That's Graeme Brown's Rabobank riders trying to look after Brownie. In the middle, you've got the dark black and blue jerseys of Team Sky. They'll be looking after Greg Henderson. Another organisation over on the right, you've got Team Radio Shack looking for their man, Gert Stegmans. This is the moment when you dare not touch your brakes, because if you do, you'll slide back through that main field and you'll have to find your way back up again. Cadell Evans, number 21 there, happily ensconced, Phil, in the main field. I don't think he's too worried about fighting with the sprinters in the last 200 or 300 metres.
And just in behind Cadell was 187. That's David Kemp, who was caught and picked up on just over Checker Hill. 5 kilometres to go now. It's not often you see this, Paul, is it? Not just one team lining up to rip the field apart. We've got probably 5 teams here who all believe they can bring the sprinter to the line.
Well, that's what they've got to do. They've got to go through the motion of getting this tempo, getting this train at the front end of the main field to make sure that their sprinter doesn't get swamped. Over on the right-hand side, just biding their time, you can see the yellow helmets. That's HTC Columbia. They'll be waiting to take over control of the front end of the main field if any of the other teams start to falter and find that their sprinter is all of a sudden getting swamped.
Well, a big push through on the inside now as the riders from HTC Columbia try to break in. Little bit of disarray and a scrabble by the riders from Team Sky as they move to the right of the road. Graeme Brown's Rabobank team in the orange, still dead centre.
Well, there you can see Greipel's team there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 riders from HTC Columbia waiting to launch their man into the front of the pack. He's just down at the bottom left-hand side there. You can see in the ochre jersey of leadership, a little bit of disorganisation coming back to HTC. It's still Team Sky on the front end of the main field. They want to try and get their man Greg Henderson right to the front of the pack. They've just turned off the main road here, Phil. Now, this could cause a little bit of a disturbance for the sprinters. There's a crash there. In fact, somebody went down just going around that corner. There's a rider down from AG2R, a rider from Liquigas, but that was halfway down the main field. I don't think that's going to affect the sprinters.
Peter Sagan, one of the breakaway heroes of yesterday, left behind in the bustle for the top. Once they made that turn, it's uphill now, and it's not an easy approach for the sprinters. They've got to be very, very strong to hold them in play here. Michael Rogers, a former winner, driving on now.
Well, all Mick Rogers is thinking about here is keeping the pace nice and high, keeping his men at the front end of the main field. But in the second row, again, big organisation for the new American team Radio Shack. They really are, Phil, looking for the victory in this bike race. Over the summit of this small climb now, they'll drop down into the outskirts of Hahndorf, a left-hand turn, then right in front of them, a 1.5 kilometre straight dash to the line.
Like yesterday in Tanunda, the finish in Hahndorf is a sprinter's delight. Allan Davis has won here before, so too has Andre Greipel, so they both know where they're heading now. This is a very tricky section just here. Doesn't look like it from the sky. It's narrow and it's very twisty before they make a sharp left turn.
Well, believe it or not, the faster you make it at the front end of the main field, the safer it is for your sprinters, because it keeps the main field stretched out into that big long line that you can see. Now they're making that sweeping left-hand bend a long way up the road in front of them in the distance. They should be able to see the finish line. Radio Shack over on the right-hand side. Now the challenge coming from Team Sky. 1, 2, 3, 4 riders from Sky. The 5th rider in that line is going to be Greg Henderson.
Well, this is a terrific battle here now, but I don't see Gert Stegmans in the mix here as Sky is taken up. Stegmans is looking around to see what he can grab, and the answer is nothing at all, and no sign of Columbia either as we head up towards the line now. It is the team of Greg Henderson here who is hoping to grab a win as they start the move, but look at the rush on the left. This is the lead out now, and coming is Andre Greipel, still bouncing and waiting. It is a long way up towards the finishing line here, and Robbie Hunter on the left of our picture. The South African on Garmin is trying to break into the picture.
Oh, it's complicated now. You can see Graeme Brown right in the middle, waiting for the moment for him to move as well. Greipel seems to have been boxed out on this one, Phil. He's got no men around him. There he is in about 4th or 5th position. Also, you can see Rojas moving up for Kees de Pagne.
Well, Rojas is the rider on the far right as Brown goes on the far left. As we look at the picture now, we go to the front. The man in ochre has popped out the woodwork and won again, and won so easily as well. 2 out of 2 for Andre Greipel, and that will increase his overall lead with the small bonuses.
Well, just look at this here, Phil. Greipel is nowhere to be seen. You can see Rojas starting the sprint there on the right-hand side. There on the left, you can see Greg Henderson looking to see whether he's got the acceleration. Then from nowhere, the door opens. The man in the ochre jersey sees the opening and kicks in with all of his might. And then all of a sudden, he's just opening and accelerating away from everybody else. Henderson second, Robbie McEwen third.
Well, there we are. That's the way to do it. In fact, that's the style of sprint we've often seen from Robbie McEwen. Has won 12 stages in history of this race. Greipel has now moved up to 7, and that has put him in 2nd place in history of stage wins in this event. And again, another clear win. Again, ahead of all the sprinters as well. Greipel getting in over Greg Henderson, Robbie McEwen, Robbie Hunter, Graeme Brown, Allan Davis there in 6th place.
I mean, that's why we are here. We wanted to do good, to perform good, and it works out pretty good.
Quite interesting to win in a town like Handorf with the German origin.
Yeah, it's like 2 years ago, and yeah, it's nice to be in a German town.
And now that you've got 2 stage victories, you've got yourself a good advantage over everybody else in this race. Can you start to relax a little bit tomorrow?
There's nothing to relax. It's hard. Final tomorrow and a hard stage. We will get to know how it will be tomorrow.
It must have felt like a home win for the German as well here, because in German founded Hahndorf, and again the team congratulating him.
Well, he's extending his lead in the overall classification there. You can see he's got a 14-second buffer now over Greg Henderson and 14 seconds over Stegemans. But watch out for Robbie McEwen, who's moving up into 4th place, 16 seconds behind.
Hahndorf will shortly return to normal. Let me remind you that he won this race by 15 seconds only a couple of years ago. This is the Jayco Sprint competition. Another jersey for him today because he's now taken a lead in this competition now. 4 points ahead of Michael Delage. Martin Kohler, the other leader yesterday, he's now in 3rd. David Kemp in 4th, and Biel Kadri is in 5th. This is the Skoda King of the Mountains competition. There's the young man putting it on again, Tom Rowe. His teammate David Kemp has joined him on the list, but he hasn't quite got ahead of him. Miguel Delage in 3rd place here, Kadri in 4th, and Marco Fanetti, who got points today, he is just behind them. David Kemp there pulling on the most aggressive rider jersey, while Jürgen Rollins here is pulling on the best young riders jersey, and he's riding very high up in the overall classification. This has been a very good race so far, but the man in the hot seat for a 3rd day will be Andre Greipel. It's a position he's been in before, and they couldn't move him then.
Since making his debut at the Santos Tour Down Under in 2008, Andre Greipel has raced on 11 occasions. He's won 7 stages. It's a very good strike rate, I'm sure you'll agree. The question now is, can he be beaten? We'll find out tomorrow, stage 3, when the Santos Tour Down Under continues for the course between Unley and the finish in Stirling. It could be one of the most decisive stages in this year's race. And you can see it all on SBS tomorrow from 6 p.m. right around Australia. And of course, if you've missed out on stage 2 today, make sure you tune in to SBS 2 at 8:30 tonight. On behalf of Phil Liggett and Paul Sherwin, I'm Mike Tomalaris. We'll see you soon.